fishing, it's in my soul.
Welcome to the Salt Strong Podcast, disrupting fishing entertainment as you know it. Prepare to laugh. Prepare to get to know fishing legends in a whole new and unfiltered way. And on occasion, you might even learn a thing or two about fishing. Here's your host, Joe Simons. Like diamonds.
Our kids are doomed if they can't do this. Hey everybody, Joe Simons, Like Diamonds, back again, Salt Strong Unchurched. This is going to be an incredibly powerful episode for parents, for soon-to-be parents, for future parents, for grandparents, anyone associated with kids, and even some kids who might listen to this with their families. And I want you for a second to imagine that you're walking into an airport. You're now past security, and you're walking up to your gate, and it's already somewhat packed. Now look around, and what do you see? I'm guessing if you have vision like me and you've done this recently in an airport, that you see a lot of people all sitting there staring at screens, including 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. Some of them got their earbuds or headsets on, and everyone's sitting there for the most part. I know there's some exceptions to this, but for the most part, everyone's down there looking at their screen. The exception is maybe they're eating and taking a break from the screens. But for the most part, when we travel and when we do things, even as a family, whether it be in a car or a plane or even just waiting in a soccer game, it's shocking how many young kids are just sitting there on their devices. And I know as a parent, it is so much easier to hand them your tablet or your phone, or God forbid, maybe you have a 4-year-old with their own phone right now. I don't think that's a good idea personally, and I'll go into why in just a second. But it's wild and a little bit scary how reliant our kids are and how they can't do anything else without this tablet, and all of a sudden become, sometimes evil, right? And screaming. And so it's easier for a parent just to say, hey, here's the tablet, here's the phone, just go watch a movie or play Minecraft or whatever. And here is where it's a massive problem. And this hit me a while back with one of our kids, our middle daughter, on a car ride, and we had no tablet. So here to this day, we actually don't own a tablet. None of our kids have phones. We have 3 kids. We literally, as a family, do not own a tablet. And so when we travel, we try to read. We try to do something that I'm going to talk about here in a second, which I think is critical, and I think our kids have no idea how to do what I'm about to describe here in a second. And I'll just tell you briefly kind of how it came about. So we're going on a car ride, and we're going up to Georgia, and we're going to have no TVs, no nothing, just old school 7-hour drive in the car. Let's do this. And my daughter's like, well, what do we do? Because in the past we'd had little TVs and tried to set up stuff for them, like even had like a little small TV and a DVD. Like, nope, we're going cold turkey. We're going to go old school. And she's like, what do we do? And I was like, you dream, you daydream. Like, this is where the best ideas come about. And she's like, well, what does that even mean? How do we do that? And it hit me. I was like, holy smokes. And these are young kids that don't even know how to daydream, because every second that they are quote unquote bored, right? Meaning not stimulated, they're in front of a screen. Now, if you're my age, I'm 44, or even a little bit younger and certainly older, as kids, we didn't have devices. We did a lot of daydreaming. We did a lot of just sitting there and riding our bikes and thinking about the future. We were dreaming about what we wanted to be, right? Think about that. How many times did parents and teachers ask you, hey, what did you want to be when you grew up? And it was so much fun to dream about that and think about it. And when we were at home or kicking pebbles in the backyard, AKA bored, we would do a ton of dreaming. As you know, I'm an avid reader. I love reading books about successful people, and I love hearing about how they came up with their ideas. And the one thing that's in common with everyone from Walt Disney and Steve Jobs and all these amazing people, Sam Walton, is they all did a ton of dreaming. They all did a ton of daydreaming. The book Think and Grow Rich, which is all about, essentially how to have success, AKA, the human success, what we call success here in this world. It was a big part of it was about dreaming and about daydreaming. And I am scared for our kids because there are many of them who've never even asked what they want to do. Like, we might offend someone if we, ask them what they want to. I don't know what's happening here, but my point is, so many of them, our young kids, have never really had a chance to dream. And think about that. It's like we don't let them get bored because all of a sudden they turn into little evil vampires or devils or whatever, because, oh my gosh, cool. Let's hand them a tablet real quick. That'll calm them down. And that's what we've been doing now as parents, because it is easier. And let me tell you, one of the coolest things that happened, not on that road trip, but we did a recent one here to a cruise. So we had to drive from Winter Haven down to Miami for this Disney cruise that we went on. And we did the same thing. No tablets, no TV, no nothing. And so we loaded up the back seat with all of books. We loaded up with a ton of drawing pads and sketchbooks and markers and crayons and highlighters. It looked like an art show going on in the back. And the coolest thing happened. Now that we've done this a couple times, right? We haven't done this 15 times, but it's a couple times we've kind of forced our kids to do it. We didn't hear complaints. If you can believe this, yes, from an 11, 8, and 6-year-old, we heard no complaints about not having a tablet or a phone or anything. And for the entire 4 hours, and I will be honest, the last hour was uncomfortable because we sat in traffic and they were getting antsy. We needed to take a break. But for the first 3 hours, they sat there and I watched my daughter Shauna in the back just sitting there daydreaming, and she would write some notes down. This is cool. This is stuff that kids are not doing. And I know there's some exceptions, but in general, kids aren't doing that this day and age. Most of the time they're in front of a device, and anytime they get bored or that we get tired of them, being antsy or jumping all over the place, we just throw a device in their hands. And I'm gonna challenge you as a parent to try this out. And some of you might be saying, "Man, this guy is crazy. How do you do it?" And I've had people ask me that. How can you possibly get in a car for more than an hour and not give them a tablet or something? It's like, we all did that. We're only doing this because we're lazy, and we're taking the easy route. We're not doing hard things like I've always challenged you guys, the audience, to do in life. That's how we become better. That is how we grow. And I'm willing to bet if I can get my kids to continue to do this, they're going to be ahead of everyone in their class. They're going to be ahead of everyone around them if they're able to dream and to think and to explore and to use their mind instead of just being numb watching a computer screen. Think about what we're doing to our kids by constantly just showing them, hey, yeah, anytime you get bored, don't daydream. Don't think about the future. Don't try to get creative and make up these even just fantasy wild dreams that we all did as kids. Think about the stuff you used to dream about, right? I want to go explore space, or I want to be a firefighter, or whatever it might have been. I want to go, scuba dive and see the bottom of the sea. I'll tell you, Salt Strong came apart prior to all of these phones and YouTube and all this. It came apart when Luke and I were fresh out of college. And this is before texting and all this stuff. And we were sitting there in Gasparilla Island with no TV, no internet, no Wi-Fi, no nothing, just dreaming about what we wanted to do in the future. And that was the first time that we didn't say the word Salt Strong because we hadn't thought through a name, but we talked about, man, how cool would it be to have a fishing company where we could teach people how to fish and to create experiences like this. And we literally just sat there and just talked about it. We were literally dreaming and talking. And most kids are not doing it these days because they're so stuck to their phones. And let me tell you the other cool thing that happened in this recent road trip down to Miami, both there and back, they did the same thing. And there was not a single complaint about not having a computer or a laptop or a phone. I'm telling you, like, even from us, there wasn't a complaint. It wasn't even easier to give them this because we gave them so many tools like writing pads and notepads, and are slowly teaching our kids how to dream and how to just be creative. And some of the coolest artwork ever came out of that. I'm talking like framers. My son, even Jackson, came up with this. It was this massive semi truck that had all these slides and stuff. And I was like, dude, you just created this on the drive? Like, it was literally impressive. I'll have to take a picture and like put it in the blog post. I was like blown away with the creativity that came out of his head. And I promise you that kind of stuff never would have happened if we had just been putting a phone or a tablet in front of his face anytime that he felt quote unquote bored. Being bored is okay. If you look at Steve Jobs, Walt Disney, all of these ideas, all the cool stuff that we see today and get to experience is because these people were bored and started daydreaming and started writing down ideas. Well, hey, maybe I could do this and I'll explore this. If you read the book of Einstein, I've read Einstein's 2 different books on Einstein. It's amazing how bored he was and how much time he spent daydreaming about these different ideas and different inventions. It is absolutely fascinating. So that is my challenge. And I really do believe our kids are doomed if they can't do this. I believe innovation will slow down. We're going to just be relying on Chat GDP or whatever it is, on the robots coming up with all our ideas, and we'll just be a bunch of zombies. I mean, it really is scary if you think about it. If we have an entire generation who's never really learned, in general, this generation, to be creative and to dream about the future and dream up with just crazy ideas that have never been created before. And instead, they're just sitting there watching some other kid play video games. I know it scares the heck out of me. And I just felt compelled to share that because I see it over and over and over again. And I've seen the change that's happening in my kid's life by not letting them do that. Sure. Are they going to watch computer games and have access to TV? Of course, that still happens in real life. But I would urge you, even just on the next travel time you have, whether it be car or whatever, load them up with pens and drawing boards and books and just see what happens. I think your kids might surprise you. Love you guys. Hope this is helpful. And if you have any other thoughts or ideas or things that you've used to help your kids or grandkids become creative, hit me up, joe@saltstrong.com.
'Cause fishing, it's in my soul. It was passed down to me from the days of old. Find us on the water if there was a way. Said my papa, he wrote the book on catching big reds and 20-pound snook. I wish I knew all the things he knew today, for he's the reason why we are this way, and he put fishing in our soul.